Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this town hall. Um, we actually had this scheduled for a little later um, in this month, but we moved it up because of all the changes that have been going on. I guess both for FTC and FRC. So there's going to be a lot of content that overlaps because most of the events we run the same. So this is just kind of we're going to give a brief update, and then I'm going to talk a little more about the programs. We'll answer a few questions that have been submitted ahead of time, and kind of go from there. The housekeeping on here is the same as always. We're recording what we have here. It'll go out on YouTube. The YouTube channel is as soon as we can after the fact, so it should go out later tonight, so you can see it on there. But it'll stay on Twitch anyway for a while. We have our hard stop at 7 o'clock. But anything that we don't have, we'll try to address after the fact, or you can contact me directly for it. And then obviously we're going to have more of these going on to try and keep people informed. So basically, as far as Leanne usually gives the first Chesapeake the update, the overall update. But tonight she's actually at a sponsor meeting. Her and Sarah Gagnon are both at a sponsor meeting. So they couldn't join me on here. But there's not too much. Most of it's program oriented anyway this evening. So I'd like to welcome everybody and I guess thank everybody for their patience and understanding, specifically in these crazy years. I mean, last year and then again this year, we're still faced with a lot of similar things that we had before with COVID and all. And so how we get through it is ever changing, it seems. But we're basically working to get information out to you as quickly as we possibly can. But keep in mind, as things go, things can change a little bit along the way, and that's the reason for having these, so that we can talk about the changes that came down and what's going on. As always, you can contact, and I don't think anybody out there is afraid to contact either myself or Leanne or Sarah or anybody in regards to looking for any kind of help on any questions. One thing that we've decided to do this year is we're going to be taking Mondays off during the season. The program staff, because most of the program staff is going to be working every weekend throughout the FTC and FRC seasons. So we're gonna go from November 16th to that April 11th timeframe, and then back to regular hours. There's a new system that we started using a little bit of. Is there's a texting system, so you can get texting updates, and you can see there's a link here if you want to register. You grab that link and you can say what you want. It's not going to be used for like fundraising or any of that kind of thing. It's mainly for like weather alerts or reminders, or this event's going to start a couple hours late or something like that. So that's what those are there. You can opt in, and if you decide to opt out after you start getting them, there's a thing at the bottom of it, you can actually opt out of it. So the other thing that's going on right now is there's a t-shirt design. I don't know if you remember last year we had a contest with a few designs out there, and if you follow that link, you can actually vote for one of the t-shirts designs that are out there, and we're gonna get those t-shirts printed, and those will go out to all the volunteers, including the judges and that we have, and then there's some prizes for people that go on and vote. The other one is that we have a scrimmage planned, an FTC scrimmage, and there's spots still open for that. And that scrimmage is based on this year's game. It's not, so it's for robots in that area that want to try your robot out. And the thing, Qualcomm is a sponsor of that thing. So if you want to participate in it, get a hold of Tim Farmer, and you can sign up for it. Okay, the I guess the rest of this is kind of normal. This is a challenges for the year slide I had used in the past. I mean, obviously we've got to follow CDC local guidelines, and now more and more we're running into it where you're not only going to have that, but we'll end up having some venue guidelines as well. So whatever all those things kind of put together, that's what we'll be following for the events that are at those particular venues. So basically, we're trying to keep it as much of a normal season as we can, but keeping teams separated in their own little pod groups as much as we possibly can. So the contact between folks is at a minimum. And the big thing is we're trying to be flexible, and based on whatever the local conditions are, depends on the size of the event and so on that we're planning on having. I think the big thing that everybody has asked me questions on a million times are about masks. So masks are they're mandatory, whether you're a volunteer, team member, whatever. You're going to have to bring a mask. And as we've said in the past, we use our paper form for the consent release document. You turn it in when you come to the event, and that's what we'll use for contact tracing if we have to. The options we're looking at this year are basically a hybrid approach for both FTC and FRC. And then for FTC, because it is an option with the game, is we're actually looking at supporting remote events there as well. And again, depending on local conditions and what teams can do. We have a lot of, and I know, people, I talk to people every day, especially this past week a lot. The different school systems are coming out with different restrictions and requirements for teams moving around and so on. And as one of the challenges we've been facing in getting venues a lot is teams are meeting for sports, but they're outdoor sports. Now that the sports are starting to move indoors, they're really starting to think about some of the restrictions that a venue may have put in place for those things. And so those are the kind of things we're faced with every day in what we're doing. And it seems the larger the school system, the more restrictions they have. So in the hybrid events, teams compete, and it's a smaller one day event that everybody's going to go to. We will limit attendance to team members and mentors, and obviously the other one would be we need volunteers, so there'll be volunteers there. Remote judging will be for all the awards, including Dean's List. So the majority of volunteering, we'll have a lot of volunteers that are going to be remote. So because judging alone counts for a lot of volunteers, but we have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Last year we did a lot with our online video feeds going into Twitch and so on. We added a commentator slot in there to talk about, so we could flip between events and so on. We're planning on doing all that same stuff this year for both FTC and FRC. And then remote awards ceremony after all the teams compete is kind of what it would be. So we'd end up most likely having our awards ceremony, we will for FTC at least, on Tuesday nights after that weekend event. And again, there won't be any spectators in person, but we'll have that Twitch channel that people can watch. The other thing we had in place last year that some of the parents actually liked, and some of the mentors that couldn't come to the event, we had a virtual audience thing where we actually had Zoom with a big screen monitor, and you could yell at the kids and things, and they could actually hear you. So we're planning on bringing that thing back. The bulk of it is you watch the event via Twitch, but when your kids are on the field, you'll be able to get on that and actually converse with them a little bit, possibly. And then for remote events, the remote event piece is just like it was last year. This is, again, specifically to FTC. You don't compete with other teams. You have like a 3/4 field and you do your thing. We actually will do the same thing with these type of events. We look for you to video one of your matches so that we can play it during, our commentators can talk about it and play it during some of the live events. And then remote judging. So the remote judging works just like it does for the hybrid event. And, I think I covered most of the stuff. The thing that was on here that is slightly different is we closed our borders, but we actually are allowing some West Virginia teams in. West Virginia actually only has 3 teams registered for the season, so they were not going to be able to compete at all. and they're fairly close to, the western portions of Virginia and Maryland. So, and they've often played at some of our events anyway. So the three teams that are out there um, are being added to our mix. And the thing on here, it's been outdated. I did this earlier today. I said we had 211 teams, and we're actually already up to 221 teams that are in the pipeline. And with that, we have actually 45 rookie teams in there. So we have a really high mix of rookies. The thing about it is some of them are not necessarily rookies. They're a rookie team that may be associated with another team. But with that, with having so many of the rookies, we're doing every Monday night, we're doing a Zoom call with any of the rookie teams that are interested in coming on, where they can ask questions and we can kind of help them or try to connect them. The second half of this here is, we're looking to add, mentor teams to the call that can possibly help some of these teams, and maybe even physically, go there and help them. Our team advisory group for FTC actually made that suggestion, and I think it's a great suggestion. So we'll be trying to figure out a way to allow mentor teams to come in and say, can you, they're looking to mentor a team, and we'll try to connect folks in there. So the timeline on here has changed slightly since before. You got the 10/18. Originally, the first round of registration was going to open tomorrow on the 15th, but instead we're going to open it on Monday, because we have a few changes that with the team count going up so much, we're actually probably we're going to have to add another event. We originally built our events based on the fact that we would have roughly 200 teams, and the 211 of them already, I'm guessing we're going to be probably in the 240 range or so. And I know I got to ask this question just to kind of put it in perspective, is in the previous year, the pre-COVID year, if you took the three states, put them together, we had roughly 320 teams. So, we're building back at least. That's a nice thing. So anyway, we're going to get all the events loaded in there and the actual places that you'll see in a minute. Some of the places that we're looking at that we're going to have them at. The issue is we're trying to nail down the dates and confirm the dates with all of them and move them around slightly because of having to add an extra event. So we'll talk about that, I guess, in a minute. But and then we'll do the second round. That'll open up, and then we'll do the third play. You can do third plays or open registration, basically, and all assignments. And I know some of you that are new this year coming back from Maryland in particular, they always did a first come first serve for registrations. We do a lottery system, so you get in there, you put your preference in there, and then at the end when that closes, we do a little lottery to assign numbers randomly to the different teams, and then assign them to the event based on that. And the same thing happens on the second one. And I can't foresee on the first round, usually everybody gets every event they want. It's the second round when they start filling up, so they get a little bit tighter. So if you look at this, the map, the circles are the different venues that we have trying to get our arrangements finalized with. Most of them we have the dates finalized, especially the more remote ones. It's the more DC area ones. So if you look at that map, you can see that all the ones that are up around the greater DC area, that basically accounts for actually now it accounts for over 70% of the teams are in that area there. So that's the area that'll have the most number of events, obviously. But we've added back in the Western Maryland one there in Garrett County. That one's in there. And last year, a lot of teams liked going out to the caverns to play. This year, it's going to be in Harrisonburg at the high school. We're adding the event there. The numbers that are in the circles, just to kind of put it in perspective, is those are the number of teams. Now, again, I ran these numbers a little while ago. So this is based on 190 teams at the time. That's the distribution of the 190 teams that had registered in the system already. And the little dot in there and the number is the teams that the dot that you're closest to, that's how many teams are in there. And I will tell you, like the Garrett County one has a number 3 in there, and I think that from when I ran this the other day, we now have 7 more teams that are out in that area that registered. So that's kind of growing. And then the other one is if you look at it, you can see that I also included the West Virginia teams in there. So the 3 West Virginia teams are in there, and they're fairly close to at least one venue or another. And if you notice, the most northern one is actually, it's a red dot, so it's actually closer to some of the event venues in the DC area. Okay, those are all the dates. We originally, like I say, had set it out at 12 events. Now we're going to do it at 13, so there'll be 13 events on those days. And then we'll also have 2 remote options. And the remote options will be in that January, time frame. And again, that's, we're offering that based on the fact that if there's schools that, comes down, they can't do something else. We don't want to exclude anybody. We want to keep it that way. So you would be able to do if you did a remote event, you'd also be able to do an in-person event as well if you wanted. So we're not trying to preclude that, but we're trying to make sure all the bases are covered there. And I think everybody's seen this matrix before. Just kind of coming back to it. I mean, our whole thing on here is, if you look at the counties that are out there, most of the areas are either in moderate or substantial. As far as what the levels there in this chart, and so we're planning on 18 team events, and so the kind of the way that they would work is they'll be on a Saturday, and we'll run 18 teams. We'll start early. It's going to be a long day, but we're going to run 18 teams through a normal event. Again, with the 2v2s, and go through and do qualifiers and playoffs, and then clean things up, and then bring the second group in and go through the same thing. So it'll be a fairly long day, but not necessary for teams. And the thing that I always get asked with this, and I'll kind of pre-answer it, is if you're a team that's coming from far away or whatever, we'll give you preference on whether you come in the morning group or you come in the afternoon cohort. So depending on however you want it. We did a lot of that last year. We had teams that wanted to travel even though they didn't have to. They wanted to go other places just for the variety and being able to play with other teams and not the same teams all the time. So the other thing is, if we change these levels, or the levels change, we're going to try and do it at least a week in advance. Probably give you an update 2 weeks in advance, and then another one a week in advance, because sometimes things change. And you can see the incidence rates are based on a 7-day average. So that's what we're going with. If you want to see like this chart and all of our other stuff, if you want to see you can get our COVID policy downloaded. It actually has this chart in it for FTC. I haven't added the FRC one in there yet, but it's on. If you go to events.firstchesapeake.org, there's a forms menu on the top. If you click on that, it has the COVID policy, and it also has the consent release form, because in both cases, everybody wants to see those. And our COVID policy has been shared with lots of people at this point, because all the venues want a copy of it as well. So that's kind of the rundown for FTC. So jumping into the FRC thing, I just wanted to leave it on there. I think, and I can't remember the exact number of teams now, but there's I think 25 teams that are left in it. There's 25 teams that are going to be playing Battle of Baltimore on the 16th, and it's going to be streamed online So even if you're not going to it, if you want to watch, it's obviously 2 seasons ago's game, but if you want to watch it, it'll be on our Twitch channel. Um, Jumping to the next part though is same kind of thing here as we did with FTC. We're going to do the judging. Will be done remotely. Um, we're going to close our borders to out of district teams. And then, masking and whatever else, all the other things we put in the COVID policy, we're going to be followed by everyone, teams as well as, the students, the mentors, and the volunteers will be in that category. So, and we'll talk a little more about the judging thing in a minute. And then again, just like FTC, we already covered it as, the Twitch will be for the spectator viewing. We'll do the virtual audience piece in here as well. And, only spectators at the events will actually be the teams. And kind of the update on it, and I think everybody's getting a lot of questions about how this is actually going to work. Right now we only have 22 teams that are actually secured. I think, there's going to be quite a few more than that. Some people have already made up the thing. We're guessing probably 90 teams. But again, we won't know until people start, at the very least, get in and start doing the event registration process in there, which we'll hit in a second. But the way the events are the 18-team single-day events, it'll be 18 teams playing, just like a normal event. You get your 10 qualifiers. We'll do playoffs. There'll be winners, finalists, and so on. The thing that's kind of open on these two things is it's still kind of being worked out by first headquarters. Is we're going to do the judging, but some of the winner and finalists obviously are based on performance of the robots, and so that's what we want to give out those awards that day. But the cultural awards will be over the 2-day period. So if it's the Greater DC event number 1, there's a day 1 and a day 2. If you go in the system, you can set your preference for either of the 2 days. Whether you want to play day 1 or you want to play day 2. So you can pick whether it's Saturday or Sunday in there. And the awards, though, will be taken across both of those days. So that's the thing. And so from a judging perspective, the thought is that, and again, these things will come out when the game manual comes out at kickoff. I mean, the more details on some of these things, but the thought is that if you play on a Saturday, you'll get judged on a Sunday. If you play on a Sunday, you'll get judged on a Saturday. There's obviously some exceptions because when you get into these things, some of the teams are going to have to travel fair distances, and if you have to travel a greater distance, we may have to make exceptions to that. So maybe there's a couple teams that they want to be judged on a Thursday or a Friday or something before the event, and we'll try to make work all that kind of stuff in there. So we've also had in the past, I've had a couple teams in FTC that they wanted to be judged the same day they played. For religious reasons, and again, we try to do all those things. So there's a point. Rose pointed it out. This slide says FTC. It doesn't say FRC, but this is FRC. Sorry about that. Good catch, Rose. We'll change it before we put the slides out for everybody to see. But I bet all mine are because I duplicated them. That's why they'll be messed up. So this is specifically FRC. All right, and then the other things on the bottom, the registration preferencing in that open today. The thing about it is that I've gotten questions from a bunch of people are, you don't have to pay in order to be able to go in the system and make some of those selections. So if you do, go in there, select your first preference, whichever event, whichever day/event day it is you want to pick. And then also, select your kickoff location. As well as if you want to opt out of the Kid Apart chassis, you won't get your money until you actually pay for that. You won't get that certificate back that you can use for with AndyMark. But at least go in and take care of doing all those things so you don't miss any deadline dates or whatever. And I guess this one I got right, FRC. Anyway, on this one, this is the kind of the updated version that we talked about with FTC. It's actually very similar. Our whole goal is to try and limit the number of people that are physically on site with this, and some places have restrictions of a couple hundred people or whatever, and we want to live within those things. Our main goal is to have the 18 teams and have as many students or many full teams there as possible. But based on if the COVID restrictions come in, we'll limit how many students can come in. I know, I put on that top line, it says 25, but the 25 is based on that's the average number that teams have, and I do know that that's a concern this year. Also, there's talked to a lot of teams that had 40, 50 students in the past, and now they got 50 and 20. So some of these things probably wouldn't matter anyway. But that's what we're trying to do. We're working out the details with that, and how many volunteers we need and so on. Some of that is based on the fact that some of the roles we would want teams to provide more than we have in the past, just to keep down the number of additional folks at the venue. And some of the volunteers may do more than one task. I mean, we've used them in the past where we've had referees actually, doing inspections, so they would that kind of thing. So to help out with inspections, and we'll talk a little more about inspections later also. But all right, same kind of thing. We'll try to update these as often as we possibly can, as soon as we can. I know these are the events that are in the system right now for you to select from. I mean, obviously, exception not the championship, but again, like I said, this map is based on 2020 teams. That's 125 dots on these maps, and we know they're all not coming back, but we tried to put something together to kind of figure out where we would have teams and how the teams would kind of fit together in there. We selected the two locations of Greater DC and the Greater Richmond area as the two, and you can see this cluster is very similar to FTC. There's a fair amount of teams that are actually the Northern Virginia, Central Maryland, Greater DC area, and then a big cluster of Richmond and then out Virginia Beach way. So I know there's concern. There's I think at this point with this year's thing, it looks like of teams that have done anything in there, there's like 6 teams that are outside of those circles, and they're ones that we'll try to work with the best we can to get them the easiest experience possible. It's not a perfect year, and by all means. So these were a bunch of questions that people submitted ahead of time, and it's like, what's the price of third place? And third place will be $1,000, just like they always have been. And you'll fall into categories of one of those teams. How will inspections work? That's another thing that's yet to be determined, but I think it's the thinking is it might be a combination of self-inspection up to a point. You self-inspect, you bring your sheet to the venue, and then you have an inspector, or we'll have a smaller group of them, but we have an inspector at the place on site that will check your sheet and maybe ask you a few questions about it, to make sure that you really did do it. And then like things like weights, or if something looks really out of proportion, it's not sized properly or something, they'll be there to do that. So we'll most likely be a lead robot inspector and a couple of other inspectors or something there to help with that. So that process again hasn't been totally worked out, but that's kind of the way it's going. And that process is something that First Headquarters is working on, and it'll come out in the game manual for everybody. How much time will be allocated for practice matches? I mean, that basically is not going to be any different than in a regular year. I mean, with 18 teams going through in a day, we can get through the day a little quicker with the 10, so we can work out the practice matches. Obviously, the practice match time goes up and down based on, field issues and so on. So I don't see that being any different. How will remote judging for one-day events work? I think we kind of answered that of, it'll be the opposite day. It'll be when you're judged than when you compete in general. And again, that's not totally finalized either. So and what awards go into which category and so on. So, kind of what we're thinking is there'll be a small little mini award ceremony at the end of the day for teams, where the teams who are winners and finalists and stuff will hand out those awards that are specific to the day. And then probably on a Tuesday night kind of thing, we'll run another, an overall award ceremony for the chairmans and any of those things that are there. So, will volunteer crews be unique between back-to-back single-day events at the same venue? We are going to try our best to not make them the same people, if at all possible. Similar to what we did this with FTC last year, but you can see it takes a lot more volunteers. So there may be some key volunteer positions that's harder to do. But with that in mind, what we want to do is the ones that we have to use over, we're going to try and make sure they kind of stay away from, we're going to try and have those folks stay away from as many people as possible, I guess. I mean, certain ones you can't, like if you're the lead robot inspector, you probably come into contact with lots of teams, very close contact and so on. So we want to try and limit those as much as we can. But again, we'll work with what we have there, I guess. Will there be week 0 events? At the moment, we are actually planning to have week 0 events. And again, there'd be 2 of them. And I know the whole thing with one of them will be in the, like Richmond area, and one of them will be in the DC area. We're working with a couple schools that they're probably going to hold in that. So similar to last year, anyway, or I guess 2 years ago now. And this last one is obviously what everybody's facing is a lot of teams that are out there are experiencing, they're going to have a rookie-like year because they lost a bunch of mentors. They lost a lot of students, and even the students they have, some of them really probably never went to a competition, depending on whether they got to one or not, 2020. And so it's a whole new world out there. How will teams you help to get on the field and the single day events? That's something that we've obviously we're more concerned about, and we'll probably, and again, I don't know the game anymore, what it's like any more than anybody else does. But when the game comes out, we'll kind of figure it out. But we would probably put additional cycle time in there so that we weren't turning over quite as quickly as that, because we don't have to. Like on the FTC side, we turned over very quickly last year. We kind of figured out how to do that, and we're doing 2 groups in the same day. We're only doing 18 each day. So hopefully we'll have plenty of time in there for teams to not miss plays or anything. And I know this ended up a both, but so then our expected logistics cost for these the venues that are fixed into the 2 locations, are they going to be less than a normal? We're actually, I mean, there's 2 things that go with this. We have fewer number of teams, so kind of the 2 things. The cost of logistics should be cheaper, but some of these venues, it may end up costing us more money because the 2-day event and having different people come to both and so on. But also the other one is there's less sponsor opportunities for FRC teams. Normally, we have 5 events, or I guess 10 if you count the 2 days. But over there, if we have those 5 events, normally we have 7. So we have other ways of we're not basically having any more money coming in. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. So that one. The next question is, how did headquarters go from the 40 team on down? I think, when we talked about that the last time, I think they were thinking about some of these things, because everybody realizes that if we can only have large scale events and we can't hold and we don't hold any of these others, we're going to lose all the teams. And so we participated in some of the conversations about it also, but between what a lot of the districts, and I will say, is some of the districts are planning the 40 team events still, but most of them all have in the same breath, they all have plans to scale back to the 18 team events. And again, because nobody wants to lose folks and lose FRC teams, and so that's kind of what the logic in there was going through. We kind of ended up going to the 18-day events mainly because of a lot of restrictions that a lot of the school systems have been telling us they're having, and just the sheer number of people at an event and allowing the students to go to those. Some schools, some of the larger school districts, which again are mostly the greater DC area, some of those larger school districts have made rules for travel and things like that for the entire year, regardless of what the COVID levels are or whatever. So that's something we kind of took into account when we went with the 18 team versions in there. But again, I'll say it again. I mean, the 18, even though it's 18 teams, and if we can go to 20 or something like that, we would probably even do that. But we're trying to run them as much like a regular event as you could get. I mean, it's not ever going to be the same if you don't have spectators there, and it's that kind of thing. But if you look at a lot of the off-season events that were had, I mean, I know the one in Richmond, I can't even remember what they had at that event, but I think it was like 14 teams or something, and I think everybody had a blast there. So just being able to compete, I think, is a very important part of it, and so we're trying to make that as normal as we possibly can. And again, so is headquarters. I mean, you got to give them credit. They came up with this and stepped up and said, "Yep, we realize we got to do this, so let's get moving." So that's there was an email that went out. This is a question about the team advisory committee specifically for FRC, were there new members selected? And unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I know the email went out. I don't know what they selected for members. I'm sure that this will trigger us to go and find out what the new members are, so that we can get them put out on the website. Because the website has, after I got this question, I looked at it. That has some members that are on the website are actually ones that have dropped off. So, and then I guess we'll open up to any other questions anybody might have. Okay. There's a chat update for students too, or just coaches, mentors? The chat update. I'm not sure what the chat update means. Why are masks mandatory if there's not a CDC guideline? I will tell you that in many of our venues right now, it is mandatory. I mean, you can go into lots of stores and things, and we want to be the safest we possibly can. We don't know who's vaccinated. We don't know who's not. Um, we don't know who's at risk. And so we've determined we just want to go ahead with masks and with that. I will say that if a venue has a stricter requirement than we do, we will be required to go with that, whatever that venue's thing is, whatever requirements they have. Teams compete in 1 day event, but events are 2 days. Can teams pick which day, Saturday or Sunday? Yes, absolutely. If you in the in the preferencing in the first side, that's why they actually created those as two separate events in the system. So you can pick whether you want Saturday or you want Sunday. And I know that's even more important for teams that are coming long distances, right? Because you got to figure out how to get there, or what it is you're actually going to be doing there. So, okay, next question. No one will receive FLL updates. Unfortunately, I do not, and I don't know which state, because both the FLL in Maryland is separate from FLL in Virginia, D.C. As far as the folks running it. So I I, I do not know the answer to that. Are the event date locations published yet? No, they are not published yet. They will end up getting published on Sunday. And I know that came from Phil, and Phil has the Garrett County event out there, so he's all set. Um, how many teams present at a time for hybrid FTC events? So if you, it's basically going to be the same thing as last year. So, but it'll be, it's one team at a time. Just like you're doing a judge interview, you do the judge interviews and you do the pit interviews. We did them all last year via Zoom. We may this year, the Jays are working on checking out the scoring software for doing it, because they built some of that into there now. But regardless of which of the two ways we did it, it'll be, teams will be scheduled a time. You'll come for that time, get your interview, and then later you'll come for a pit interview. So same kind of thing as at a normal event, but it'll be virtual. Will there be any sort of vaccine requirements? There will not be any vaccine requirements that we're putting in place, but there may be some vaccine requirements that are put in place by venues. And I can't predict what those are. Okay, will there be inspections? And I think I answered this, and this looks like Fred. So actually for both of them, we want to kind of do it the same. Is you'll actually, teams will do their own pre-inspection, follow the inspection thing in the manual, and then from that, when they get to an event, there'll be an inspector at the event to check that over, and just they won't be doing the full inspection, just to make the inspection go quicker. Where will the Greater DC actually take place, and what is the likely location? So if you looked at those maps, those are places that are likely locations. For Greater DC, it's what we're working with is it's hard to get anybody to sign up. So we're looking at commercial venues, and in the commercial venues, we're looking at like a warehouse space to use for it. And the thing with it is they won't, most of them won't commit to this is your building and this is the one you're going to go in. But we've picked some larger development companies that have multiple properties, so they have lots of buildings. So our goal is to stay within like a 10-mile radius of where that one is. Okay, can you explain judging on second day? And I'm assuming this is for FRC. So the judging on the second day is all virtual. So your chairman's award, the chairman's presentation and all that stuff would all be done from a virtual manner. And likewise, kind of does the same thing on the FTC side. I mean, it's all virtual. So the judges aren't in person, and you're not in person. And if there's students that can't come to an event, they can still participate in the judging. Um, we ran into that quite a bit last year. If there's a student that's kind of at risk for getting sick, they participate in the judging side because they could. Where will the events be in March for FRC? And I think that was kind of the same one that Rose had. I mean, the two places that we have them, I mean, they will be in the greater Richmond and greater DC areas, and we're trying to, from those dots where they are on the map, we're trying to keep them within a 10-mile radius of that. Oh, okay. So the text messaging thing. Okay. The text messaging thing it would be available to anybody. I mean, the text messaging thing, to me, the thing that I would want to use it the most for, because I do it with my daughter in her school, is I want to know when school is going to be late, or I'm going to start the event late, or it's going to be canceled or moved till some other time, whatever. So everybody wants to know that. Are volunteers expected to wait a certain amount of time before volunteering at another event to reduce the COVID risks? That is something that we absolutely are going to try to do it. Last year, what we did for FTC is, if you volunteered this weekend, you didn't volunteer the next weekend, and you can see there's a volunteer thing where we have a lot of online volunteers, so you could volunteer in person one week and do the next week, virtual or whatever. But yes, that is exactly what we want to. We want to limit the exposure to that person as well as everybody else as much as we can. What website okay? So and I'm assuming the registering for events on Monday. This is a FTC question. So with FTC, all of the whoever is lead mentor one in the system for your FTC team, and I say the system being the first system. So in your first dashboard, whoever is lead mentor one, they're going to be getting an email with a user ID, which is their email address and a temporary password that they'll actually log into the registration system with. If you go to on our events.firstchesapeake.org, on there, you click on the FTC link, and on FTC there's going to be a registration button at the top. You can just click registration, and it'll take you over there. But you're going to need a user ID and password in order to do your preferences. Will FTC judging be Saturday or Sunday, same day, other day of the competition? Right now, they're leaning towards basically you compete on Saturday and they would do your judging on Sunday. But that's something the JAs are working out right now. Okay, do I know when you're about the FLO questions? I'm really sorry, but I don't. But it's something that we will actually try to check out and send it out to folks. I'm assuming, I don't know if you can, whether it's Maryland you're talking about or we're talking about Virginia, DC. I think Virginia, DC has their events earlier than Maryland does, and so I'm not sure what the answer to that is. But I will try to remember all those things for next time to figure out that. Any other questions? All right. When do we expect the FRC event locations to be announced? So what we're actually shooting for and trying to work it out with folks is the it would be the around the 1st of December. And again, yeah, there you go. Pineapple belong on a pizza. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm not a ham eater though, but and again, if you have any other questions that come up or you want to have a conversation, as always, I mean, feel free to give me a call. Um, the last couple of days, I've been getting lots of calls. Um, so it's been for FRC and FTC. It's a lot going on, and we're trying to make it as normal as we possibly can. But and hopefully, we're going to have a good season. Can you explain the FRC event location decision timeline? Is I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I guess the whole thing about picking the trying to have something to everybody by December 1st is really what we're searching for. I mean, we have a couple places, and that's where I put dots in where those places are. But if they rent them out, then we're not gonna have to go to another one of the locations. This recording will be put on the YouTube channel. I know, not everybody can obviously make the 6 to 7 time frame, so um, it will be out there, and it shouldn't take too long after we finish our session tonight. Put it out there for her. So there's our YouTube channel. You can see it out there. And usually it doesn't take too long to get that out there. It usually shows up fairly quickly. And I guess the only other one I don't. Hopefully, I answered your question about venue selection. And if I didn't, I guess again, feel free to give me a call. Even tonight after this, if you want. Yeah, for FTC events, the events are fast paced. If you're kind of equating it to what it was last year, they won't be as fast paced as they were last year. The goal here is with that many teams and such, it takes a little longer to get everybody going anyway. But the events will have 2 fields, so hopefully teams will be getting on the second field while the first one's going. But with 18 teams, you won't be playing back to back like you were last year. So hopefully that will be better as well. How do we set up a call? Is it about calling me? Is that what you mean? I guess Ryan, if you want, you can put my phone number out there. Ryan and Matt, I don't know. I mean, my phone, it's on our website as well, but it's 443-996-7000. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, I see the getting ready for Battle of Baltimore. We're all getting ready for Battle of Baltimore. We'll be setting up tomorrow for it, so should be a fun event. Any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Accenture, and kind of wrap it up uh, by actually watching a little video of from them from our sponsor.